I transmigrated as the canon. 2 days later, Fang Jinyu found out about Chun Baxing's punishment while looking at the basics of alchemy at Mount Lingyao. Chun Baxing's cultivation base would be crippled, and he would be expelled from Chunling sect, as described in the sect rules. Liu Xiaojun was also expelled after losing his cultivation base. Even his father, a foundation establishment stage alchemist, couldn't protect him in such a matter. The Chunling sect had its place that was proficient in alchemy. It even had Mount Lingyao, a peak with 8 hidden spiritual veins, which the names of the 8 trigrams named its veins. Although Liu Xiaojun's father was a famous alchemist, and was different from ordinary alchemists, how could the Chunling sect tolerate him interfering with something he shouldn't? All of a sudden, all the ranked 9 in the key condensation stage disciples clearly understood the rules of the Chunling sect. A ranked 9 in the key condensation stage disciple with triple element spiritual roots and a high chance of breaking through the foundation establishment stage had lost his cultivation base easily. They would not even dare to think of the consequences if he was an ordinary cultivator. Many foundation establishment stage cultivators were shocked. However, Fang Jinyu didn't think so. Reminiscing about the Grandmaster's rage, it seemed to be a result of breaking the rules made by the Grandmaster. Today is the day of gaining from snitching, luck obtained through refinement +1. It was time for Fang Jinyu to collect his harvest of the day. Luck. Fang Jinyu could not help but be shocked. Then, he immediately felt as if he was freed from some shackles. He felt an indescribable sense of freedom. However, Fang Jinyu knew that it was because his luck had increased. If the book were still available, Fang Jinyu would know. His character was no longer a canon fodder that died in the first chapter. Instead, he would be like Xin Qiangchen, a canon fodder living over 2 or 3 chapters. Why does it sound like nonsense? Fang Jinyu cursed it in his heart, but at the same time, his eyes lit up, because in this place, other than the luck brought by magic treasures and other magical items, one's personal luck could not be plundered by others. The only thing that could be taken away was the additional luck. For example, he could obtain the magic treasure's luck when he snatched other people's magic treasure and refined it. However, Fang Jinyu now realized that he had a way to increase his own luck. It was also a unique personal method. It said that one can improve his cultivation talent after having strong luck. Fang Jinyu immediately thought of the Chunling spiritual root. If he had the Chunling spiritual root, not only would he have a chance of breaking through the core formation stage, but he would also have a high chance of breaking his core and forming a nascent soul. He now had triple elemental spiritual roots, which meant he could control 3 types of magical power. The triple elemental spiritual roots would be advantageous to him in fighting with others, but they would also affect his progress in cultivation, especially during the breaking of the core and forming the nascent soul. The nascent soul was the foundation for switching between physical and virtual forms. His triple elemental spiritual roots would affect his nascent soul. Moreover, when one possessed more magical power attributes, it would be riskier for him to form a low-tier golden core. The golden core was divided into 9 grades. The grade 9 golden core was the lowest, while grade 1 was the highest. As for the core formation of Chunling's spiritual root, the worst situation was forming a grade 3 golden core. The chances of breaking into the nascent soul of a cultivator with a grade 3 golden core, a cultivator with a grade 2 golden core, and a cultivator with a grade 1 golden core were 10%, 20%, and 50%, respectively. Discover new Tories at NVED LBIN CO. For those with a golden core lower than grade 3, reaching rank 3 in the core formation stage was already an outstanding achievement, let alone creating a newborn soul. Fang Jinyu's heart began to race as these thoughts ran through his mind. He couldn't snatch away most of the opportunities that the female lead, Su Ye, had. It was all related to the female lead's admirers. Therefore, although Fang Jinyu had tried his best to memorize the opportunities he could use from the book, he couldn't find much. Fang Jinyu thought, after all, I can't dress up as a woman to seduce the male characters, right? Furthermore, look at my height and manly appearance. I will never be able to attract male characters, regardless of how skilled I am at camouflaging myself. There are indeed more profound transformation techniques that can achieve such a goal. But is that something a rank 1 in Foundation establishment stage cultivator like me can do? However, there are plenty of characters similar to Chun Baxing in novels. Among Su Ye's admirers, some of them had a chance to flirt with her. However, most of them didn't even get to know her. Anyway, how can I make this system-like thing in my body refine my luck? Although he saved himself with the Chun Baxing incident, it was very particular about probability. Fang Jinyu's interest waned at the thought. Moreover, it's hard to seduce the female lead's admirers. They are all powerful in their own ways. For example, the loyal core formation stage admirer or the cool lord of the immortal city. I can save myself with the Chun Baxing incident by chance and coincidence. It relied on my previous parents' sacrifice for the sect, but it might not be because of Chun Baxing. After all, there is also Lu Xiaojun. Forget it. I'll think about it next time. Fang Jinyu retracted his thoughts and continued studying alchemy basics. He had initially planned to use the chance of entering the Lingdu secret realm to exchange for the Foundation establishment stage chapter of the Storm Raging technique. But unfortunately, his plan failed. Although the Chunling sect would provide Foundation establishment stage cultivation techniques to its disciples, they were all low-tier cultivation techniques. If Fang Jinyu wanted to obtain a high-tier cultivation technique, other than acknowledging a core formation stage cultivator as his master, he could only accumulate merit points. Fortunately, the Chunling sect wasn't inhuman. Or perhaps it was because the nascent soul stage Grand Master took the initiative to meet Fang Jinyu, the descendant of his old friend. Hence, the sect leader gave him the key circulation guide for the storm raging technique for ranked 1 Foundation establishment stage cultivators. However, Fang Jinyu wasn't satisfied. Thus, he wanted to learn alchemy. Alchemy was the most common talent among cultivators and the simplest way to earn merit points. Refining a low-tier elixir for key condensation stage cultivators would earn him many merit points. The difficulty of becoming an alchemist increased the alchemist's earnings. Fang Jinyu had been studying the basics of alchemy for 2 days, but he was only familiar with the process of refining elixirs and some of their medicinal properties. However, he was still confused about the methods of refining a furnace of elixirs. Fortunately, Fang Jinyu could cheat with the system, so he wasn't in a hurry. Furthermore, he had 200 years of lifespan after he broke through the Foundation establishment stage, which gave him plenty of time. A key condensation stage cultivator would die at 100 years old, but Fang Jinyu was in his prime when he was 100 years old. Meanwhile, someone walked over quickly and stood a dozen steps away. He saluted and said, "Marshal Uncle Fang, a senior brother is here to see you." He calls himself Lu Yifang. His voice was as pure as the sound of an oriole bird. The voice owner was Du Meina, a disciple of a peak of Mount Lingyao named Li, where Fang Jinyu was currently located. The disciples from a peak of Mount Lingyao named Li were all handsome men and beautiful women. Although their cultivation talent was average, they would be perfect alchemy helpers for Foundation establishment stage cultivators after they spent more than 10 years of hard work studying alchemy. After hearing Du Meina's words, Fang Jinyu couldn't help but look surprised and asked, "Lu Yifang, this fellow still dares to come and find me?" Fang Jinyu thought for a moment and asked Lu Yifang to come over. Soon, Lu Yifang appeared. When he saw Fang Jinyu, he bowed deeply and paid his respects, saying, "Thank you for your magnanimity, Marshal Uncle Fang." Lu Yifang was shocked by Chun Baxing and Lu Xiaojun's consequences. He didn't care about how Chun Baxing ended up. Although he had some background, he was only from an ordinary cultivation family. He could only consider a toff. However, things were different for Lu Xiaojun. Lu Xiaojun's father was at rank 7 in the Foundation establishment stage. He was also a holy alchemist. Lu Xiaojun's father was special to be named a holy alchemist, which meant that he differed from the other alchemists. Ordinary alchemists could only refine elixirs from the stage he was in. However, A holy alchemist could refine elixirs beyond their stage. Some outstanding holy alchemists could even refine elixirs needed for the nascent. Soul stage cultivators at the foundation establishment stage. It could be said to be changing one's fate. However, Lu Xiaojun's father was not an outstanding holy alchemist. Otherwise, the nascent soul stage grandmaster would be willing to respect him. Thank you so much, Martial Uncle Fang. This is a token of my appreciation. I hope Martial Uncle Fang will accept it. Liu Yifeng took out a gift. It was a red sandalwood box. When Fang Jinyu opened it, he saw many irregular-shaped spirit stones. At a rough glance, there were at least 500 of them, which he could buy a low-tier spirit tool. That's very kind of you, junior brother Lu. I'll accept it then. Fang Jinyu forgave Liu Yifeng for his previous action while seeing him being polite. After all, in the end, Liu Yifeng was just conveying Chun Baxing's message, and he didn't offend Fang Jinyu with his words that day. Moreover, the box of spirit stones showed Liu Yifeng's sincerity. He probably saved them for several years. Liu Yifeng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Fang Jinyu accept the gift. Liu Yifeng thought, it's definitely a good deal to use hundreds of spirit stones to resolve a grudge with her. Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. Then I won't disturb Martial Uncle Fang any further. Although Fang Jinyu had addressed him as his junior brother, he did not dare to address him as his senior brother. Different ways of addressing each other were quite common among the cultivators. It was just a name. Fang Jinyu didn't say anything and asked Dumena to send him off. When Fang Jinyu expressed his interest in learning alchemy, the peak of Mount Lingyao named Li sent Dumena as his alchemy helper. At first, Fang Jinyu was not willing to accept her. After all, he had his secrets. Fortunately, under his careful observation, Dumena didn't seem willing to acknowledge him. Dumena's beauty wasn't inferior to any of the famous fairies of the cultivation world, nor was she inferior to the female lead. After seeing the vastness of the cultivation world, such a beautiful woman was naturally unwilling to assist a kind and honest foundation establishment stage cultivator with triple element spiritual roots. Although cultivators with triple element spiritual roots had the potential to break through the core formation stage, everyone acknowledged that it was tough. Even if they succeeded, they often hovered between rank 8 and 9. Fang Jinyu merely needed to choose a day to let her know that he didn't want her to assist him with his alchemy. However, the strange thing was the book never mentioned Dumena's beauty, which didn't make sense. Dumena would at least be canon fodder that would die in chapter 1 with her appearance and ambitions. Wait, where did my reputation as a kind and honest man come from? Fang Jinyu was puzzled. Is it because my parents are honest, so people think I am honest too? It made some sense. After all, as the saying goes, parents were their children's first teachers. Rubbing his chin, Fang Jinyu continued to study the basics of alchemy. With his efforts, he soon gained something. Today is a day of studying the basics of alchemy. Refined knowledge of alchemy 1. In an instant, the alchemical knowledge he had rote memorized in his mind seemed to come alive. Fang Jinyu could master the art of alchemy once his mental understanding of the subject had returned to normal. I'm indeed a genius. I understood the key point of alchemy in a short while. Fang Jinyu said it shamelessly. Following that, Fang Jinyu used 100 spirit stones to rent an alchemy furnace and purchase spirit herbs. Then he began to refine elixirs. He lit the fire, put in the spirit herbs, and started refining. He turned off the fire and turned on the alchemy furnace. Soon, dark smoke billowed. Since it's the first time, making mistakes is normal. Fang Jinyu nodded and started refining the second furnace of elixirs. After lighting the fire, he again put the spirit herbs into the furnace. After that, he repeated the steps of refining, extinguishing the fire and activating the alchemy furnace. Boom! This time, thick smoke erupted like a volcano, covering Fang Jinyu's face. It's normal for a beginner to fail twice. Fang Jinyu was still unconcerned with the situation. He swept the ashes off the furnace and continued to refine elixirs. This time, the furnace exploded before he activated it. Junior brother, you're here to refine elixirs, not cultivate storm techniques. If there's anything you don't understand, You can ask your alchemist helper. I remember that Dumena is assisting you, right? This little girl is very clever and willing to endure hardships. She had once refined a furnace of elixirs alone in the past. If it weren't for the sect leader, this girl wouldn't have been assigned to you. The Foundation establishment stage cultivator from Mount Lingyao, who had assisted Fang Jinyu in exchanging his alchemy furnace, could not help but grumble. Fang Jinyu showed an awkward look. Fang Jinyu thought, no wonder there were so few alchemists. It's too hard. I'd already mastered the key point of alchemy, but I'd failed to refine the 3 furnaces of elixirs. The 3rd furnace even exploded. Fortunately, the alchemy furnace was a talisman tool, not a spiritual tool. Otherwise, Fang Jinyu would have gone bankrupt today. Fang Jinyu quickly asked, since Dumena can refine elixirs on her own, why don't you train her to become an alchemist? He was trying to change the topic. Moreover, Fang Jinyu was also curious about it. The elixir refining process was so complicated that even he failed repeatedly. However, Dumena could refine a furnace of elixirs on her own, which indicated that she had the talent for refining elixirs. At the very least, she was above average. The Foundation establishment stage cultivator said regretfully, "Sigh, she has 5-element spiritual roots. It was only by chance that she could reach rank 1 in the key condensation stage. Anyone else would have already broken through the Foundation establishment stage. One's cultivation aptitude was still the most crucial factor in cultivating." The Foundation establishment stage cultivator sighed again and said, "If she has 4-element spiritual roots, we'll try our best to train her since she has such talent." Fang Jinyu nodded and thought, no wonder the sect had given up. Afterward, he went to find Dumena and seriously asked for advice. Perhaps because Fang Jinyu showed a good attitude, Dumena told him everything she knew. Fang Jinyu also confirmed that the senior brother from Mount Lingyao was telling the truth. Dumena was indeed proficient in alchemy. After listening to her explanation, Fang Jinyu suddenly understood everything. Fang Jinyu took out a ring and said, "Thank you so much. Marshal needs do. I'll gift this talisman tool to you." It was one of the talisman tools he had used before. It had 2 rings. Despite being only a middle-tier talisman tool, it could increase the power of a spell cast. It was a rare supplemental talisman tool. It helped Fang Jinyu a lot when he was a disciple who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage. Initially, Fang Jinyu wanted to give it to Xin Qianchen since he had no use for it. However, Xin Qianchen had both earth and wood attributes, so only one of the 2 rings was suitable for her. As for the other one, he gifted Dumena as a token of appreciation. It's a middle-tier talisman tool. "Thank you so much, Marshal Uncle." Dumena was shocked when she recognized the grade of the talisman tool, but uncontrollable joy soon filled her. After all, she was only at rank 1 in the key condensation stage, and a middle-tier talisman tool was something she could only come across by luck. Fang Jinyu nodded and dismissed Dumena. He purchased more spirit herbs and then walked into the alchemy room. However, 2 hours later, Fang Jinyu came out from the alchemy room again. Meanwhile, he showed a gloomy expression. Although he didn't burn the furnace, he still failed. It's too difficult. Hence, he prepared to purchase some more spirit herbs. Meanwhile, Dumena, who had been familiar with the talisman tool, came over. When Dumena saw the situation, she asked, "Marshal Uncle, are you going to purchase spirit herbs?" Fang Jinyu was speechless, although Dumena asked him with a serious tone. Fang Jinyu felt that she was laughing at him. However, he knew it was probably a psychological effect of his anger, so he nodded expressionlessly. Dumena immediately said, "Marshal Uncle, although the herbs on each Mount Lingyao are sold at the same price, the spirit veins on each Mount Lingyao are different. As a result, certain peaks can grow a large amount of some spirit herbs easily." Fang Jinyu immediately understood what Dumena meant and asked, "Do you mean there's a place where I can buy cheaper spirit herbs?" After all, the more scarce an item was, the more expensive it was. When there were too many spirit herbs, the price would drop. Although the price was fixed to prevent cutthroat competition in the sect, there would always be people who could come up with other ways. It's said there's a dark market jointly created by several martial uncles. You must buy at least 100 portions of spirit herbs for each purchase. However, the price would be much lower. For example, a portion of spirit herbs costs 10 spirit stones, so 100 portions would cost 1,000. However, 100 portions only cost 700 spirit stones in the dark market. As soon as Dumena finished speaking, Fang Jinyu was excited. It would save him 300 spirit stones. When he first transmigrated here, the former Fang Jinyu had only saved 600 spirit stones, including the ones left by his parents. It was equivalent to half of the total. Fang Jinyu asked worriedly, "Where did you hear that from?" Although he believed that Dumena wouldn't lie to him, he was worried that Dumena had been deceived. After all, no key condensation stage cultivator would dare to lie to her. Foundation establishment stage cultivator. It would be possible since no key condensation. Stage cultivator would have a psychological burden to lie to a cultivator who ranks 1 in the key condensation stage and has 5-element spiritual roots. Dumena answered, "I heard a few senior brothers who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage mention it when I was invited to a gathering of the Mount Lingyao. Disciples? They are disciples from other peaks who have the potential to break through the Foundation establishment stage." Fang Jinyu was surprised and asked, "You can attend a gathering of disciples who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage?" He remembered that the former Fang Jinyu had once wanted to participate in a gathering of the late stage key condensation stage disciples when he was ranked 5 in the key condensation stage. He was escorted out, though. Dumena smiled bitterly and said, "Maybe it's because of my appearance." Fang Jinyu finally understood the situation. Dumena's beauty allowed her to attend gatherings of any stage of disciples to make up the numbers. Dumena had left to run errands for him. After all, he could save 300 spirit stones, so it was inevitable that Fang Jinyu would be tempted. However, after she had left, Fang Jinyu suddenly remembered something. According to the book, there was a scandal about Chonling sect. The sect suppressed the incident to prevent it from spreading since it involved too many people. The scandal was revealed because a disciple of the Chonling sect, who just broke through the foundation establishment stage after years of hard work, died mysteriously. The scandal seems to involve the 8 peaks of Mount Lingyao. Fang Jinyu's heart skipped a beat. Dumena is ambitious, but she's also very cautious. She's not an arrogant person. Logically speaking, the book will definitely describe her presence, unless she's dead and she died without people knowing. Before Fang Jinyu gave Dumena the talisman tool, she had always been cautious with her words. She was reluctant to follow him, but held her tongue and pretended not to feel anything. Her attitude toward him had always been respectful. However, after Fang Jinyu gave Dumena the talisman tool, she changed how she addressed him from Martial Uncle Fang to Martial Uncle. Then, she even told him about the dark market. She was treating him as someone close to her, so she wanted to help him save spirit stones. If this dark market is the scandal, and Dumena wanted to help another Tonling sect disciple back then Fang Jinyu immediately got to his feet and left the alchemy room after having the thought. He felt that his speculation was correct. In the book, there was a description of the personality of the incredibly unlucky Foundation establishment stage cultivator. The book described him as a kind, honest man who never got angry. Therefore, he had a good reputation among the Chonling sect's low-tier stage disciples. Such a person should be able to win Dumena's favor. Fang Jinyu still needed to get a suitable spirit tool on hand. However, when he was promoted to the Foundation establishment stage, the Chonling sect bestowed on him a low-tier spirit tool, the Ring of Blazing Fire. The ring could summon a large amount of blazing fire and greatly enhance fire element spells. However, that was all the spirit tool could do. Fang Jinyu was not picky. After all, an excellent low-tier spirit tool would cost at least 2,000 spirit stones. Its price would be costly if it were a middle-tier spirit tool. Fang Jinyu would have preferred to use the Ring of Blazing Fire among the low-tier spirit tools. At the very least, it was more than enough. Dumena went by foot. Although the Chonling Sect provided low-tier key condensation. Stage disciples with tools to travel with. How could she be faster than a foundation establishment stage cultivator who could fly? Soon, Fang Jinyu caught sight of Du Maina's figure from afar. Du Maina had a graceful figure, with the elegant curve of her back and her long legs beneath the draped fabric of her dress. It was easy to recognize her just by looking at her back. However, Du Maina wasn't in danger, contrary to Fang Jinyu's expectations. A disciple of Mount Lingyao who ranked 7 in the key condensation stage brought her to meet a disciple who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage. Then Du Maina opened her mouth and said something. Soon, another disciple of Mount Lingyao, who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage, came out and handed a green wooden box to Du Maina. Du Maina opened the box to take a look. She handed over the 700 spirit stones she had prepared after ensuring they contained the required herbs. Naturally, they were also kept in wooden boxes. There were no items like storage bags here, only talisman tools like the 100 treasure box. The 100 treasure box was made of different materials to store different items. Spirit stones were usually stored in a 100 treasure box made with red sandalwood. The spirit herbs were kept in the green wooden 100 treasure box, which could ensure the fullest extent of the medicinal properties of the spirit herbs. Did I guess wrong? Seeing that Du Maina had already returned, Fang Jinyu was slightly puzzled. However, Fang Jinyu quickly confirmed that his predictions were correct. When Du Maina was passing through a valley, someone suddenly stopped her. Read the latest stories and novelbi.com. Senior brother, what are you all doing? Du Maina was still calm and inquired. She wasn't panicking and vigilantly looked at the 3 disciples from Mount Lingyao standing in front of her, who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage. The 3 disciples who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage looked at Du Maina playfully and laughed. One of them said, "Hand over the spirit herbs. We might spare your life if you make the 3 of us comfortable. Of course, you can't stay in the sect anymore, but don't worry, we'll send you out. Some mortal nobles will be willing to accept you. Aha! This spirit herb belongs to a martial uncle. Aren't you afraid that the martial uncle will trouble you?" Du Maina couldn't remain calm anymore. After all, she was only 16 years old. Even if she was cautious, it was inevitable for her to be afraid. If you disappear, everyone will think you've run away with the spirit herbs. By then, who would suspect us? After all, you're only a disciple who ranks 1 in the key condensation stage with 5 elemental spiritual roots. The beautiful Du Maina, we've all heard of your name. It's worth inviting you last time since you voluntarily come to meet me. As the 3 disciples from Mount Lingyao, who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage, spoke, they threw out a spirit tool. Furthermore, it was a scarce formation spirit tool. When the 3 disciples activated it, it formed an array and sealed the place. Meanwhile, the array hid all the auras. Du Maina's face instantly turned pale. She knew she was doomed. She didn't expect the so-called sect gathering to turn out to be a trap. Unexpectedly, someone spoke. Not bad. What a great spirit tool. An array-type middle-tier spirit tool. The newly constructed array was then physically destroyed from the inside. Although the spirit tool was good, it depended on the cultivation base of the owner. The 3 disciples who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage were considered barely about the same as cultivators who ranked 1 in the foundation establishment stage. However, the difference was like heaven and earth. Not to mention the 3 disciples despised Du Maina, who ranked 1 in the key condensation stage. They didn't even activate 1/10 of the power of the spirit tool. Thus, Fang Jinyu broke it easily with 1 attack. Only then did the disciples, who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage, notice Fang Jinyu. The 3 finally started to be afraid when they saw that. Fang Jinyu had no intention of concealing his cultivation base. They thought, how will a foundation establishment stage cultivator be here? Meanwhile, Fang Jinyu raised his hand. An invisible wind power gathered and transformed into 3 wind blades, severely injuring the 3 disciples. Fang Jinyu had held back his strength. After all, he had to hand them over to the sect, and he couldn't kill them. Fang Jinyu was about to confiscate the formation spirit tool and take the three away with his wind harness technique. However, they heard a roar. Who's fighting here? Then, a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator descended from the sky. When the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator saw Fang Jinyu, he immediately asked, "Junior brother, why did you attack these three juniors?" Fang Jinyu cupped his fists and pretended to be honest. He said, "Senior brother, these three wanted to kill this martial niece. I happened to be here, so I took action and prepared to bring them to meet the sect leader." When the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator heard Fang Jinyu's words, he went furious and said, "I see. Then leave it to me. Junior brother, I'm a disciple from Mount Lingyao, so I should be the one to deal with them. Then, I'll leave it to you, Fang Jinyu." "Thank you so much, junior brother." The Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator took 2 steps forward, looking as if he was going to take the 3 disciples. However, just as he approached Fang Jinyu, he suddenly attacked. However, the situation was different from what he had imagined. He failed in his attack. The Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator of Mount Lingyao was stunned. He initially looked to be an upright person, but now he could not help but be shocked. Meanwhile, a stream of fire fell. The blazing fire couldn't hurt the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator much. However, there were many of them, and they contained the internal energy of a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. The blazing fire caught the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator of Mount Lingyao off guard, and his face was burned by it. Although his injuries were not serious, he was in a mess. "Senior brother, why did you suddenly attack me?" Fang Jinyu had retreated to the side, preparing to escape at any moment. Although his storm raging technique was a top-tier cultivation technique, the gap between their cultivation levels was large. His opponent was at rank 3 in the Foundation Establishment stage. If they continued the fight, Fang Jinyu would definitely lose. However, he now understood how the unlucky, kind Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator died in the book. He was most likely to be ambushed. If he didn't read the book that suddenly appeared and knew the plot, he wouldn't be on full alert all the time. Although he wouldn't have been ambushed, he wouldn't have been as calm as he was now. "You, the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator of Mount Lingyao," immediately changed his expression. He thought, "I've disguised myself well and succeeded once. Why did I fail this time?" Meanwhile, Fang Jinyu had made his move. The storm raging technique was a superior cultivation technique with triple element spiritual roots. Hence, it naturally did not only include wind element magical powers. Fang Jinyu threw the ring of blazing fire and chanted a spell. Soon, a large area of lightning surged. It was one of the great divine powers of the storm raging technique, summoning storms with spells. However, cultivators needed to pay a high price while using the spell. Cultivators would lose a spirit tool whenever they cast. The successful cultivation of the spell was incredibly challenging. If Fang Jinyu didn't attempt cultivation the day before and unexpectedly refined the great divine powers, he wouldn't be able to master it. The Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator of Mount Lingyao was shocked when he saw the giant thunder cloud. He wasn't afraid of Fang Jinyu's great divine powers, but he was worried that most disciples of the Chonling sect had seen it since the thundercloud was too great. As expected, a ray of light flew over, and a core formation stage cultivator arrived. Meanwhile, the thunderclouds immediately dissipated. The core formation stage cultivator asked coldly, "Why are you two fighting?" Fang Jinyu didn't recognize the core formation stage cultivator, but the Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator of Mount Lingyao did. The Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator's expression brightened. He quickly said, "Martial Uncle, please allow me to report that I took action when seeing this junior brother committing a crime here. My purpose was to save these 3 people." Fang Jinyu thought, "Wow, he plans to bring suit to the victims." Meanwhile, 2 more rays of light flew over, and another 2 core formation stage cultivators arrived. One of the core formation stage cultivators smiled at the first core formation stage cultivator who arrived and said, "Senior brother, they are the disciples of your peak. Junior brother is right. I'll leave the matter to the sect leader. I won't bother anymore." When the core formation stage cultivator who arrived first heard it, he didn't change his expression. He only nodded and left. Meanwhile, the sect leader had rushed over after hearing the news. When the foundation establishment stage cultivator of Mount Lingyao saw the sect leader, he hurriedly repeated the words he had said earlier. The sect leader asked Fang Jinyu with a poker face, "Junior brother Fang, is that true? I've activated this discipline pearl from the beginning. Sect master, please close it for me later." Then, Fang Jinyu took out the discipline pearl. He had refined the discipline pearl when he received it. All test November L on November N. CM. However, he had never activated it. Unlike talisman tools and spirit tools, the discipline pearl would record everything around once it was activated. Even a core formation stage cultivator couldn't deactivate it without knowing the right method. Therefore, when Fang Jinyu took out the discipline pearl, the foundation establishment stage cultivator of Mount Lingyao changed his expression. He cried in horror, "Why do you have the discipline pearl?" With the presence of the discipline pearl, everything was clear. However, there was no more follow-up to the matter. It was as if it had never happened. The foundation establishment stage cultivator of Mount Lingyao and the 3 disciples who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage disappeared. Even though Fang Jinyu had been mentally prepared for such a result, he could not help but feel indignant. When the sect leader returned the discipline pearl to him, he had specifically told him to keep it a secret. Today is a day of acting bravely. Refine the opportunity of the new female lead +1. What? I can even refine such a thing? Fang Jinyu looked at the little arrow in front of him and was dumbfounded. Luck, understanding, inner energy, appearance, and so on were all related to him. But the new female lead's opportunity had nothing to do with him. Fang Jinyu stared at the second line of text that was disappearing. A new female lead? Is it Dumena? Fang Jinyu thought about it and could only think of Dumena. She had the worst talent, a calm personality, ambitious and looked pretty. Weren't these the standards of a good-for-nothing protagonist? Then, does it mean that there will be 2 female leads in this world in the future? Fang Jinyu couldn't help but feel strange. Initially, I just wanted to recover the loss of 700 spirit stones. But why did I end up creating another female lead? Why did I feel like the current situation is more beneficial to me? This world operates with luck. There is no doubt that the female lead, Su Ye, has the strongest luck. However, will Su Ye's luck be divided in half if another female lead appears? I'll find out about it when observing Su Ye's cultivation progress in the future. If she didn't break through the core formation stage within 5 years, it indicates that she only has half her luck left. With the thought in his mind, Fang Jinyu followed the little arrow that only he could see and searched for opportunities. The opportunity isn't far away. Oh yeah, if the opportunity is too far away, how could Dumena, a little rookie, get it? In the end, Fang Jinyu dug out an exquisite 100 treasure box from an unremarkable place. There was nothing in the box except for 2 elixirs. The 2 elixirs appeared normal, but they also resembled black poison elixirs. Fang Jinyu thought for a while and took one of them. After restoring the place to its original state, Fang Jinyu left and began to read all sorts of elixir books. However, he couldn't find any records of the elixir. Although there were a few records of similar elixirs, they didn't seem reliable after considering Dumena's situation. Since it was Dumena's future opportunity, the elixirs must be helpful to her. Afterward, Fang Jinyu began to search for all sorts of legendary elixir books. After going through the books for 2 days, he finally found one, the Mortal Transmutation Elixir. After consuming 1 elixir, one's lifespan will be reduced by 30 years. It can remove the weakest attribute in one's spiritual roots. However, it can't help with the dual element, spiritual root transforming into the Chonling spiritual root. Fang Jinyu's eyes lit up. If he was not mistaken, the elixir in his hand should be the Mortal Transmutation Elixir. It was an elixir that could turn a cultivator with 5 elemental spiritual roots into one with dual elemental. Spiritual roots. Of course, the premise was that he had a long enough lifespan to be deducted. One has to shorten their lifespan for 30 years after consuming the mortal transmutation elixir. Moreover, one can only consume the elixir at a cultivation base lower than the core formation stage. In that case, Domaina will only be able to transform into 4 elemental spiritual roots if I take one, but it should be just right for her. Fang Jinyu could not help but feel surprised. Although a cultivator with triple elemental spiritual roots had a higher chance of breaking through the foundation establishment stage than a cultivator with 4 elemental spiritual roots, they would face the problem of not being able to live until they broke through the foundation establishment stage. Losing 30 years of lifespan at once would cause a lot of damage to the body. Read the latest stories and novel.com, not to mention that one's lifespan was suddenly reduced by 60 years. If the 16-year-old Domaina took to mortal transmutation elixir, she could only live for another 10 years and turn from a young girl into a white-haired old woman. However, Fang Jinyu hesitated about whether he should consume it. It was indeed a fate-changing elixir. However, Fang Jinyu would reduce his lifespan by 30 years. Even core formation stage cultivators would feel their hearts bleeding for a long time when they lose 30 years of lifespan. Moreover, he wasn't a cultivator who lacked opportunity and had no other choice. However, after some thought, Fang Jinyu still consumed the pill. It was because there was a complete set of high-tier magic spells hidden in the memories of the former Fang Jinyu. It was the supreme Wine Thunder scripture. The parents of the former Fang Jinyu obtained it. Initially, his parents wanted to hand it over to the sect. However, for some unknown reason, the former Fang Jinyu's parents let the young former Fang Jinyu memorize it before destroying it. Only cultivators with dual wind and lightning spiritual roots could cultivate the supreme Wine Thunder scripture. Coincidentally, among Fang Jinyu's wind, fire, and lightning spiritual roots, his wind and lightning spiritual roots were graded B, while his fire spiritual roots were graded C. In the past few days of cultivation, Fang Jinyu had felt the burden of the fire in his spiritual roots. The spiritual roots were divided into A, B, C, and D grades, and each grade was divided into high and low tiers. A grade of C in his spiritual roots was regarded as a pass. Otherwise, the former Fang Jinyu wouldn't be able to be ranked 9 in the key condensation stage in his 20s. However, it was inferior to Fang Jinyu's other to spiritual roots, although it would take a long time to switch to another cultivation technique and even cause his cultivation base to be weakened. It was obvious that the advantages outweighed the disadvantages compared to the gains. In the 9 desolations, there was a ranking of high-tier magic spells. The Chonling sect's Storm Raging technique was outside the top 100. The Supreme Wine Thunder scripture was ranked 93rd, although there were no records of cultivators using the Supreme Wine Thunder scripture to break through the nascent soul stage. There were many cases of cultivators successfully breaking through the core formation stage by cultivating it. The majority of them were well known in the 9 desolations. Fang Jinyu immediately began his closed-door cultivation. His closed-door cultivation had lasted for 2 months. By the time he ended his closed-door cultivation, Fang Jinyu had already completed his cultivation transition. It was naturally contributed by the cheat he had on him. In the past 2 months, Fang Jinyu had slightly improved his cultivation base after gaining 9 points in understanding, 6 points in understanding great divine powers, and 5 points in refining inner energy. He felt that cheating made things way easier. Although I've lost 30 years of my life, I don't seem to have aged much after gaining some points on refining my appearance. It is considered a surprise. As Fang Jinyu circulated his inner energy, he could feel the density of his inner energy. He could even see traces of electricity shimmering on his skin, as expected of a top-tier cultivation technique that can be ranked in the top 100 of the 9 desolations. However, I have to work hard on my cultivation from now on. I must rank 9 in the foundation establishment stage within 30 years. Fang Jinyu was smug with success and once again made his way to one of Mount Lingyao's peaks named Li. Fang Jinyu valued alchemy skills even though he didn't need to save up merit points to exchange for the guide of the Foundation. Establishment stage cultivator's storm-raging technique. Without cultivating alchemy, Fang Jinyu wasn't confident enough to rank 9 in the Foundation. Establishment stage within 30 years. After all, he could only use his cheat once a day. He believed it was better to bet on the probability of gaining points in understanding alchemy, because it was easier than gaining points in refining inner energy. Gaining 1 point in inner energy could save him more than a month's worth of cultivation. However, a top-tier elixir that he needed in his current stage could help him save several years of cultivation. It was the reason alchemists had such high status in the world of cultivators. Fang Jinyu arrived at one of Mount Lingyao's peaks named Li, and was ready to continue his alchemy. He didn't need to buy any more spirit herbs and only had to rent an alchemy room. And this time, he finally succeeded in refining the elixir. Ki and Soul Replenish Elixir. It was a common elixir in the Ki condensation stage and had many applications. High-tier Ki condensation stage disciples would use it to restore their inner energy, and low-tier Ki condensation stage disciples would use it to improve their inner energy. Sometimes, the elixir was also indispensable when breaking through a bottleneck, since it could reduce the damage of one who failed to break through forcefully. Fang Jinyu continued to work hard when he had refined all 100 portions of spirit herbs. Although his success rate was only 10%, he had obtained 85 Ki and Soul Replenish elixirs. The elixir wasn't considered expensive, but it was definitely not cheap. Back then, Fang Jinyu had only been able to purchase one Ki and Soul Replenish elixir after a month of cleaning feces. Fang Jinyu kept 5 Ki and Soul Replenish elixirs and sold the rest to the sect for 1,600 spirit stones. He kept 5 Ki replenishing pills and had Fang Jinyu sell the rest to the sect for 1,600 spirit stones. The Tronling sect didn't charge any additional fees to encourage disciples to cultivate their alchemy skills. The sect would only charge by the price at which it should be sold. It was convenient for the sect's Ki condensation stage disciples who needed it, and benefited those who wanted to cultivate alchemy. Alchemists are indeed very rich. Fang Jinyu couldn't help but sigh. Only those who had a stable success rate of 30% for 10 types of elixirs could be called alchemists. He could imagine how wealthy those alchemists were. It's a pity that the dark market is a scam. However, it should be gone now. Otherwise, I may have gained a little more. Fang Jinyu slightly shook his head. Afterward, he was going to purchase another 100 portions of spirit herbs. If he wanted to improve his alchemy skills other than through self-understanding, he still needed to practice more. The process was undoubtedly very costly. Just as Fang Jinyu walked out, he found that Dumena had been waiting for him for a while. Martial uncle. When Dumena saw Fang Jinyu, she immediately smiled. Fang Jinyu sized up Dumena and found the current Dumena looked even more mature. She looked like a 16-year-old girl back then. However, she had the appearance of a young woman now. Obviously, she had already found her opportunity and consumed the mortal transmutation elixir. They hadn't seen each other for 2 months. Dumena's cultivation base was currently ranked 2 in the Ki condensation stage. The situation made Fang Jinyu confident that Dumena was the new female lead, who enjoyed the same status as Su Ye in this world and was also the lucky star. Fang Jinyu pretended to sigh and said, "Congratulations on breaking through the shackles of talent. You should have obtained a mortal transmutation elixir, right? Although the elixir was good, you needed to pay a high price. Since I haven't rewarded you for the last time you ran an errand for me, I'm giving you this bottle of Ki and Soul Replenish elixir. I believe it can help you break through to rank 3. Speculations about the luck of the 2 female leads, they were just his speculations. Hence, he decided to use Su Ye's upgrade method on Dumena. Thank you, Martial Uncle. Dumena was overjoyed, but she couldn't help but ask, "Martial Uncle, how did you know? Can I restore my previous appearance in the future?" Dumena couldn't help but feel uneasy when she asked the second question. Since Fang Jinyu was a foundation establishment stage cultivator, he was allowed to look up to many alchemy books due to the status brought by his cultivation base. However, Dumena was different. She could only lend a few alchemy books. I saw it before and was immediately amazed by this great elixir. As for whether you can recover your appearance, I don't know. However, a foundation establishment stage cultivator will have 100-year of lifespan. Even if you can't recover your looks, you should be able to maintain your current appearance for a long time. Thank you for your guidance, Martial Uncle. By the way, Martial Uncle. Dumena was a little sad, but she immediately adjusted her mood. Afterward, she took the initiative to approach Fang Jinyu and whispered. Dumena wasn't trying to gossip, but to tell Fang Jinyu that she had seen a Tronling sect disciple who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage holding a pair of low-tier lightning attribute spirit tools to test its power on the drill ground. Fang Jinyu couldn't help but change his expression. It was because the Tronling sect leader had said that he would give him a pair of low-tier lightning attribute spirit tools as a reward for discovering the scam in the dark market. Even though they were low-tier lightning attribute spirit tools, they were scarce in the cultivation world. In addition, it was very powerful. Usually, a low-tier lightning attribute spirit tool was more expensive than a decent middle-tier spirit tool. Moreover, it was hard to purchase. In Tionling sect, there was only one pair of low-tier lightning attribute spirit tools. It was formed of a hammer and a nail. Dumena was present and heard the Tionling sect leader say it. Hence, she also knew about it. I'll go find the sect leader. Fang Jinyu recalled that the sect leader said he would send someone to deliver the spirit tool. However, he didn't see any talisman or anyone to inform him after he had finished his closed-door cultivation. This time, Fang Jinyu had to wait half a day before meeting the sect leader. After a while, Fang Jinyu left Mount Tronling with a slightly ghastly expression. I'll remember it. Fang Jinyu was slightly angry because the sect leader had told him that the pair of low-tier lightning attribute spirit tools had been taken away by the grandson of a core formation stage cultivator 3 days ago. The sect leader had given him 2 choices. One was to wait for the sect to collect another low-tier lightning attribute spirit tool, and the second was to compensate him with 2,000 spirit stones. Fang Jinyu muttered, "Can 2,000 spirit stones buy a low-tier lightning attribute spirit tool? Even 5,000 spirit stones might not be able to buy it." However, Fang Jinyu had no choice. He could only choose to take the 2,000 spirit stones. It was because Fang Jinyu had realized that the scam of the dark market was just the tip of the iceberg. Moreover, his actions offended the benefits of many people. L8th November LS on N Velby Co. If it was just a simple no-cost scam, how could the 3 disciples who ranked 9 in the key condensation stage have a middle-tier spirit tool? It was even an array spirit tool. In terms of attributes, lightning attribute spirit tools were the most precious in this world. They were usually in high demand but not in supply. It was because those who had obtained a lightning attribute spirit tool or a treasure of heaven and earth that could be used to refine a lightning attribute spirit tool would usually use it for their use and would never sell it. In terms of category, array spirit tools were naturally the most precious. It took a lot of work to refine an array spirit tool and required the refiner to be proficient in formation techniques. Back then, a core formation stage cultivator who belonged to the same peak as the four arrived first, followed by 2 other core formation stage cultivators. One of them told the first core formation stage cultivator to avoid arousing suspicion. I'm afraid the dark market involved the dispute between the core formation stage cultivators. With his thoughts, Fang Jinyu immediately made a decision. He decided not to leave the peak of Mount Lingyao named Li until the opening of the Lingdu secret realm. Compared to Mount Shaowei, although the peak of Mount Lingyao named Li wasn't in charge by a core formation stage cultivator, it had richer spiritual energy. Otherwise, all the foundation establishment stage cultivators from Mount Shaowei wouldn't have gone to other peaks. For example, Fang Jinyu, the new foundation establishment stage cultivator, If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to switch his cultivation technique, he would never have returned to Mount Shaowei. Today is a day of working hard to refine elixirs but no gains in alchemy skills. Refined alchemy skills +1. All the information about alchemy in Fang Jinyu's mind seemed to come alive instantly, allowing him to improve his alchemy skills by leaps and bounds. When he opened the furnace the next day, he was able to maintain the success rate of the key and soul replenish elixir at 20%. It ignited Fang Jinyu's passion for alchemy. I'm indeed a genius in alchemy. A shameless new foundation establishment stage cultivator praised himself. A few days later, Fang Jinyu's success rate in refining the key and soul replenish elixir had risen to 90%. Due to his good luck, it was a terrifying success rate and helped Fang Jinyu's wealth increase daily. Fang Jinyu, on the other hand, only sold a portion of the key and soul replenish elixir because he had to register his name when he sold them to the Tonling sect for 20 spirit stones per elixir. Therefore, Fang Jinyu only sold 30% of them. Even so, 30% of the elixirs were enough for Fang Jinyu to be famous at the peak of Mount Lingyao named Li. After all, it indicated that Fang Jinyu had a decent talent for alchemy. However, Fang Jinyu left the peak of Mount Lingyao named Li on this day. It was because Fang Jinyu once again surprisingly refined Dumaina's future opportunity. Just like the previous one, it showed a small arrow. However, the direction it was pointing was to leave the Chonling sect. After some consideration, Fang Jinyu decided to take advantage of the opportunity. Yes, I'm willing to take advantage, just in case. Fang Jinyu took the initiative to look for Dumaina and offered her 5 key and soul replenish elixir. He asked her to take him to Yuan City, located outside the Chonling sect. Fang Jinyu thought, with the second female lead's luck, even if there is danger, she should be able to turn it into a blessing, right? Yuan City was a city where mortals lived together. It didn't belong to any imperial court. Yuan City was outside the law, just like the other immortal cities. When Yuan City was built, it was a place where the disciples of the Chonling sect married and raised their children. It had formed a massive city outside the imperial court's jurisdiction as time passed. As for Dumaina, although she had just moved to Yuan City, she had lived there for many years before Dumaina joined the Chonling sect. Hence, she could be considered a native of Yuan City. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been accepted by Mount Lingyao. As an exception with her 5-element spiritual roots, even though Mount Lingyao frequently accepted visually appealing disciples, one's spiritual roots had to meet a certain standard. After all, the sect couldn't keep a disciple stuck in the early stages of key condensation for the rest of their lives, could it? Even if cultivators with 5-element spiritual roots cultivated to death and were fortunate enough to meet some small opportunities, they would only be at rank 3 in the key condensation stage. Dumaina was pleased with Fang Jinyu's invitation. After all, he had saved her life. Hence, she didn't take the elixir but was willing to take him around Yuan City. Also, it was a good opportunity for her to go home. Fang Jinyu didn't force her to accept the bottle of elixirs and follow the arrow in his field of vision. As for Dumaina, she would naturally follow Fang Jinyu wherever he went. After all, Fang Jinyu had yet to specify where he wanted to go. Finally, it came to a stall set up by a key condensation stage cultivator. Fang Jinyu glanced at it and couldn't help but complain in his heart. What a cliché scene ... He already knew what would happen next. Although Fang Jinyu had been busy studying alchemy, he had mastered the breath-hiding technique for a long time. After all, it was a necessary skill for cultivators. However, Fang Jinyu had no intention of hiding himself. It depended on time for him to pretend to be weak. In this place, one could avoid unnecessary trouble by revealing their cultivation base. Of course, the main reason was that the girl beside him was too beautiful. Although her appearance had changed from a young girl to a young woman, she appeared even more attractive. Her appearance made every man looking at her feel like a cat was scratching at his heart. Not all cultivators were dedicated to cultivation. Most of the key condensation stage cultivators and the foundation establishment Stage cultivators were no different from mortals. Moreover, because they had extraordinary power, their desires in all aspects were 10 times stronger than mortals. Not only would key condensation stage cultivators and the Foundation, establishment stage cultivators desire beautiful women and wealth, but they would also want more. Fang Jinyu turned to the key condensation stage cultivator and said, "I'll take them all. Give me the price." "Yes, senior. It's a total of 30 spirit stones." The store owner didn't dare to say anything more. After calculating the price, he wrapped up the item and handed it to Dumaina. From the store owner's perspective, the beautiful woman with a lower cultivation base than him was probably the maidservant of the Foundation, establishment stage cultivator in front of him. After all, it was very common among cultivators. Some cultivators would exchange beauty for protection and cultivation resources. Fang Jinyu took out 30 spiritual stones and turned to leave. After walking for a while, Dumaina couldn't help but ask in a low voice, "Martial uncle, is there something good that hasn't been discovered yet inside?" Dumaina was curious because she found nothing special. When she carefully looked at the stall's items, "Well, I won't say it out loud. You can look for it later. If you find it, I'll give you half." Fang Jinyu's words looked natural, and he didn't seem embarrassed. "Thank you, Martial uncle." Dumaina couldn't help but be happy. Although she didn't think she could find it, she wanted to use the opportunity to gain some experience. As the saying goes, experience is the mother of all wisdom. Dumaina had become more cautious after encountering the scam of the dark market. She believed that experience would help a lot in increasing her wariness. Dumaina thought, "If I'm experienced and knowledgeable, I'll naturally not be easily deceived." Just like that day, I didn't realize something was wrong with the dark market, but Martial uncle immediately noticed it and followed me. However, it was just something Fang Jinyu had made up for his actions that day. If Dumaina had carefully considered Fang Jinyu's words, she would have found flaws. However, she believed that Fang Jinyu had a kind and honest character. Although honest people were honest, nobody said that honest people must be stupid. It was just that a gentleman could be deceived reasonably. Coincidentally, Fang Jinyu could break through to the Foundation establishment stage by fully understanding his cultivation technique and accumulating his inner energy. In the eyes of many, he was an honest and quick-witted man. The two of them found a quiet place and opened the package. Fang Jinyu first tried to rummage through it. He found one, but it wasn't. He found another one, but it was still different. They were just like what they looked like on the surface. Afterward, it was Dumaina's turn. She picked up a roll of dirty bamboo slips, opened it and wiped it a few times. Nobody knew how she did it, but she triggered the hidden restriction on the bamboo slips. Hence, it revealed its actual appearance. It was a vintage jade slip. Fang Jinyu was speechless. However, it met his expectations. Since the arrow disappeared when it was in touch with the stall, Fang Jinyu had no idea which stall was the opportunity. Although the new female lead had no idea about it, she would definitely be able to find it. It was just a cliché trick. Meanwhile, Dumaina handed over the jade slip. She didn't dare keep it for herself. Fang Jinyu was shocked after looking at it. It was a fortune-telling technique. The fortune-telling technique wasn't the ability to read other people's fortunes. Instead, it was a one-of-a-kind technique that used one's luck to predict good or bad luck and hide the other's fortune. In short, it was exclusive to campers. Once one cultivated the fortune-telling technique, if their luck sensed danger, it would immediately reflect the problem to them to allow them to avoid it. On the other hand, if their luck sensed any benefits, they would immediately have a telepathic connection. It was like the saying, "The treasure is fated with me." However, using the fortune-telling technique to hide the other's fortune, it was extremely evil. As long as the cultivator used it, even if he stood in front of the other party would not be able to sense it. He could even kill the other party and leave them to die unknowingly. Of course, the prerequisite was one's luck had to be strong enough. The fortune-telling technique is illusory. I've already memorized it, so you can destroy it after remembering it. If you can learn it, then learn it. If you can't, then don't force yourself. After finishing his words, Fang Jinyu returned the jade slip to Dumena with an indifferent look. Although he pretended to be indifferent, his words were true. After memorizing it, Fang Jinyu tried to comprehend the fortune-telling technique, but he couldn't understand it. The strange thing was that he clearly felt he had completely understood it. It was indeed worthy of being the most mysterious secret technique in the cultivation world. Thank you, Martial Uncle. Dumena was stunned and thought, I know how extraordinary the contents on the jade slip are, but I didn't expect Martial Uncle Fang to give it to me. He shared it with me just like we had agreed on before. Furthermore, the way this Martial Uncle Fang looked at me didn't even have the slightest hint of lust. Meanwhile, Dumena couldn't help but agree with Fang Jinyu's honest character. Moreover, she was also moved by Fang Jinyu's integrity. She had no idea that Fang Jinyu was planning to take advantage of her. After all, Dumena had the chance to consume the mortal transmutation elixir when she was only at rank 1 in the key condensation stage. Moreover, when Dumena was at rank 2 in the key condensation stage, she discovered an extremely rare secret technique like fortune-telling. It was an ability that usually nascent soul stage grandmasters had. Fang Jinyu couldn't imagine what would happen when Dumena reached rank 3, rank 4, and even the foundation establishment stage. At that time, the benefits Dumena could bring would be unimaginable. Moreover, Dumena would greatly increase her chances of surviving with the campus exclusive fortune-telling technique. Fang Jinyu didn't hope the lucky star he had accidentally created would disappear for no reason. He was expecting that the 2 lucky stars would fight in the future. After all, the battle between the 2 would benefit him, the cheater. Fang Jinyu's plan was clear. After all, nothing was more profitable than investing in a lucky star. After that, Dumena went back to visit her parents, while Fang Jinyu found a place to continue his study of the fortune-telling technique. Fang Jinyu thought, it didn't matter if I couldn't understand it. I just wanted to gain points in fortune-telling. I transmigrated as the canon fodder in female protagonist novel. Part to end here. Wait for part 3. Please like, comment, and subscribe.